Have you ever really stopped to think about the stories we tell? The ones about our hometowns, our high schools, our communities. They aren't just memories, are they? In a lot of ways, they're the blueprints for who we are right now. So today, we're going to dig into the story of one school, a history that holds two completely different truths, and what that tells us about the incredible power of memory itself. And this idea right here, this is the heart of it all. History isn't some static thing we just find. It's a story that gets told over and over. Which leads to the most important question of all. Who's holding the microphone? So, the author of our source material uses this amazing metaphor for Gordon College. She calls it a perfect snow globe. You can just picture it, can't you? Beautiful, pristine, this little self-contained world. But it makes you wonder, what does that kind of perfection depend on? And maybe more importantly, what gets left outside the glass? Okay, so to really get the full picture, we have to start with the story that Gordon told about itself. This is the official version, right? The one you'd read in the alumni magazine or hear at a big reunion dinner. For a lot of its white students, Gordon really was magical. I mean, they remember the tight-knit camaraderie of the barracks, the crazy adrenaline rush before a big inspection, the glamour of the military balls. It was a place that gave them structure, discipline, a real sense of belonging. It wasn't just a school to them. It was home. It was a proving ground. It was family. And for them, that version of the story is 100% true. But it's not the only true story. For the Black students who were at Gordon during that exact same time, the experience wasn't about family or tradition. It all boiled down to one single powerful word: survival. So let's talk about that hidden story. It's time to pull back the curtain on the official narrative and really look at the history that was unfolding in the hallways and the cafeterias, the one that almost never made it into the yearbooks. This wasn't necessarily about big, explosive moments. It was this daily, grinding hostility. Whispered slurs as you're rushing between classes. Entire tables of white students just getting up and walking away the second a Black student sat down. Liquid being thrown out of a barracks window. And maybe the most chilling part? Seeing axe handles stacked in the cafeteria, which was the well-known symbol of the segregationist governor Lester Maddox. The message couldn't have been clearer. And this quote from Carolyn Lawrence, it's just a gut punch. When she and other Black students stayed home to mourn the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., their grief wasn't just dismissed, it was mocked. They were literally punished for their sorrow with a failing grade. But sometimes a story that's been hidden for so long just refuses to stay buried. There were these moments when the two different realities of Gordon would crash right into each other, out in the open, forcing everyone to look. And one of the most jarring examples was an annual school tradition. Yes, you heard that right, a tradition. So what on earth was Slave Day? Well, it was a school-wide fundraiser where white cadets were auctioned off. The highest bidder would get a slave for a day to carry their books, run their errands, and the source material makes a point to say that the faculty, the staff, they all just stood by and watched. It was just another part of the school year. But then, a few of the Black female students had this incredible idea. They decided to use the twisted logic of the system against itself. They pulled all their money, $17, and they bought the most notoriously racist cadet up on that stage. Well, when he, of course, refused to take any orders from them, they didn't let it go. They marched straight to the administration office and demanded their money back, basically exposing the whole sham. And you know what happened? The very next year, Slave Day was just gone. No big announcement, no apology. It just vanished into thin air. That one act of defiance really gets to the heart of the bigger issue here. Who gets to tell the story? So let's zoom out a bit and talk about the power of memory and how communities choose which parts of their past to champion and which parts to quietly forget. Okay, so there's actually a term for this: collective memory. It's this idea that groups, whether it's a school, a town, a whole country, tend to remember their past in a way that protects their identity. It's not always about outright lying. It's more like curating the story. You highlight the good stuff, the heroic moments, and you kind of let those inconvenient, uncomfortable truths fade into the background. And this is a perfect example of collective memory in action. The school's official history book literally said that desegregation passed unnoticed, that it happened quietly, without incident. That's the snow globe version of the story, the one that kept the image of a peaceful, orderly place intact. And this timeline really shows you the long-term impact of that kind of selective memory. I mean, for decades, that hidden story stayed hidden. When the research for this book started in 2020, they found that most of the Black alumni from that era had never even been invited to a reunion. Their part of the story had been so completely erased that a board member who really wanted to help admitted he had absolutely no idea what they'd gone through. So here's the real takeaway. Bringing these forgotten stories to light isn't about blaming people or tearing down institutions. It's about understanding that when we tell a fuller, more honest truth, we don't just change how we see the past. We actually change who we are, right now, in the present. It's like we're finally opening up the snow globe. And all of this leaves us with this one final, incredibly powerful question. It was first asked by a Gordon administrator who helped bring all these stories to light. And it's not just a question for one school in Georgia. It's a question for all of us, for our own communities. Who gets to tell the story? Who gets to do the remembering? And ultimately, who gets to decide how things are?